Mr. Acting Speaker, who among us has not felt the sting of unwanted or even unwarranted media attention? With the choice of public service comes scrutiny, and that can sometimes be uncomfortable. Very often, we are aggrieved by what the media reports, and sometimes what they don't. In a democratic society, the media plays a critical role in ensuring accountability, not just of public figures, but also any entity in authority. Mr. Acting Speaker, this responsibility to speak truth to power is not one to be taken lightly, and a society of thinkers, ordinary citizens, relies upon its media to sometimes be the conscience of a community. Reporting should be well-sourced, balanced, and courageous. The art of journalism is not always appreciated, and more often than not, we prefer to watch an expose unfold rather than to be the subject of one. However, Mr. Acting Speaker, journalists have a job to do, and where they do it, no matter how uncomfortable it may be, their work should be respected, and a truly democratic society cannot be said to prosecute, persecute, or move to silence the media. Mr. Speaker, the Bermuda of the 20th century did not honor these ideals, and I wish to remind some and inform others of a regrettable chapter in our history which saw journalists arrested, charged, tried, convicted, fined, and imprisoned for simply reporting the truth. Mr. Speaker, Reverend Charles Vinton Monk was an American pastor in the African Methodist Episcopal Church assigned to Pastor Allen Temple AME Church in Somerset. During his tenure, he witnessed harsh and terrible conditions imposed on Jamaican workers brought to Bermuda to work in the construction of the Royal Naval Dockyard. In keeping with the doctrine of the AME Church and its commitment to social justice, Reverend Monk took to writing about these conditions and exposed the company responsible for them in the hope that this would bring about a change to the benefit of the workers. Instead of accepting the truth of the obvious state of the workforce, the rampant disease and dangerous working conditions at the site, the principals of the company saw to it that Reverend Monk was arrested and charged with criminal libel. Mr. Speaker, the activism of Reverend Monk in Bermuda and the subsequent trial is captured in detail in the book Freedom Fighters, From Monk to Mazumbo, which was penned by the late Ira Phillip. Mr. Acting Speaker, a review of the case indicates that the whole affair was laced with shocking bias. Reverend Monk was unrepresented by counsel, as his King's counsel, Mr. Henry Spencer Joseph, having died the day before the original trial date amid speculation of him having been poisoned. Mr. Acting Speaker, the trial judge, Sir Brownlow Gray, was the father of the prosecutor, the Honorable Reginald Gray, the then Attorney General, and he was assisted on the bench by a first cousin, the Honorable R.D. Darrell. Mr. Acting Speaker, the Crown called 2 witnesses, while Reverend Monk called over 100 witnesses in defense who testified to the very conditions reported in Monk's article, which were the subject of the criminal complaint. Mr. Acting Speaker, the accepted history of Bermuda makes it highly unlikely that Reverend Monk could have been tried by a jury of his peers. And while I am not a learned honorable member, even I can appreciate that the eventual verdict of guilty was clearly against the weight of the evidence in the case. Mr. Acting Speaker, I have brought these facts to the attention of this honorable House and the public because it is high time that this historic wrong is made right. Therefore, Mr. Acting Speaker, I am pleased to advise this honorable House that with the approval of the Cabinet and in concert with the AME Church in Bermuda, pursuant to Section 22(1) of the Constitution, I have formally invited His Excellency, the Governor, to consult with the Advisory Committee on the Prerogative of Mercy with a view to granting a full and free posthumous pardon to Reverend Charles Vinton Monk. Mr. Acting Speaker, I am pleased, as you have, Mr. Acting Speaker, to recognize in the gallery the Reverend in the gallery, Reverend Nicholas Tweed, my pastor and pastor of the St. Paul AME Church, who has revived the important issue of this injustice regarding Reverend Monk from the pulpit, as well as Reverend Howard Dill, the presiding elder of the East District of the AME Church, and his wife, Miss Emily Gale Dill. In addition, I would like to also welcome I would also like to welcome Pastor Jakimo Smith and also Reverend Lauren Bean of Richard Allen, who is also present in the gallery, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Acting Speaker, some may ask, why this and why now? To that, Mr. Acting Speaker, there is a very simple answer. It is never too late to do the right thing. Thank you, Mr. Acting.